Hello everyone, welcome back once again to Springrealms, our wonderful little Patron server. So, I'm becoming a bit of a cliche there, aren't I? Opening up my videos with all of these repeated catchphrases. Anyways, last time we worked out this system, which allows us to smash pots to create an actual recognizable, there we go, do mischief, an actual recognizable gameplay element that we can then do a number of times as well as get rid of things. And I'm going to just boost up my... I always forget to do this, but I'm going to boost up my GUI scale so you guys can see it a bit better. There we go. And since then, I have greatly... well, more like by about 9 blocks, reduced the footprint of this circuit, because that's always the thing that I do when I come up with a redstone circuit. It's, okay, here's how I do it. Now how can I make this smaller and more efficient? Well, you don't see that every day. Must be a storm outside. I should note that outside of here, where there is now a bridge... Oh yeah. Yeah, it's mucky and horrible. Ew. Anyways. Yeah, but that's always the thing I do. Here's how I do it, here's how I do it, really, really small. And this is what I had come to manage, and it looks pretty good. I've tried to get it down to 2 wide, but I don't think I can. Mostly because of this wire, which has to point into the block, and it's kind of tricky to do that with enough space otherwise, but, oh well. So, what this does is, every time a pulse comes in, it clears the thing, it makes a nice noise, and it then tells us do mischief, which is what we expect it to do. That's basically every time you do it, something happens, which could be you get teleported, could be you get a status debuff, could be sort of subversion of the boss turns up, but every time that happens, something happens. And then eventually, when the reset gets triggered, which is to say when this memory latch flops, then we spawn the full boss. We get ourselves a nice eerie cave noise, and we say time to fight the Harbour Master, and then we ostensibly do something. But the thing that we are interested in today is the do mischief part. Because in order to... Jeez, it's going off, ain't it? Criminy. Wow. I'm just gonna clear the weather, because why not? There. I know, yeah, Eyeball's currently on, so let's just give them a reprieve from the lightning. Eesh. But anyways, so what we need to do is first come up with a list of things that will happen when someone breaks one of these pots. Ideally, if we can, we need to try and isolate exactly where this pot was broken, and that means we'll be then able to isolate what happens to that region, which means the people who have caused this damage to the harbour are going to be the ones responsible for the effects and such. But first we need a list, so let's start with an obvious one of... Let's start with the obvious one of debuffs. That's the most logical, easy, straightforward thing. So let's just plug debuffs right there, and I'm thinking we'll have probably some degree of blindness, maybe some degree of weakness or slowness. Those are the standard things. Poison and stuff, wither, insta damage, I don't think we're going to have those on. Debuffs, I think we're going to stage as being our lowest tier of mischief. And I'm saying mischief. This is basically the Harbour Master giving you a whack over the back of the head for messing something up. But calling it mischief is a little bit of a misnomer, but functionally it's mischief. So debuffs. So let's just have our list here of slowness, weakness, hunger, blindness. We can get a bit more fun by actually giving people the occasional speed and, or is it haste? I think it's speed. Yeah. Speed and jump boost debuffs. Nausea is an option. Nausea is always an option. It's always one of the most debilitating effects that you can give a player in Minecraft. Also, hi, I'm over here in the side-eye again. But I think we're going to avoid it. Now, the reason is, it works and it's effective in disorienting, but it is also the most nauseating, which I guess is appropriate for nausea, kind of effect. When you start to mess with what people are seeing like that, it really... It's not very accessible for people, in short. It causes them to be incredibly, actually legitimately sick, and it's not great. Especially if you get, if you experience travel sickness, nausea is not great. So, that'll be the bulk of our list here. Now, what we might toss in is night vision when we do the blindness, and then we'll couple speed and jump boost together, and then slowness and weakness. Maybe we'll have these in pairs, because we're at that kind of stage where we can be a bit crueler in the map. Although I have had people still telling me that the Dungeon of Erenus is still really mean, but then it's impossible for that one to not be mean, I think. Okay, so, middle tier of mischief. This is going to be mob summons. So, let's put that as mobs, and that'll be things that we summon in within the vicinity, ideally, of the responsible player. So, for example, we could summon creepers, we could summon zombies and skeletons. So let's say zombies, skeletons, creepers. We can mark down Endermen as being our priority. So let's put Endermen, and we'll give them we'll give them a ++ on that. So, it will summon an Enderman to try and see to things, to try and figure out what's going on, and especially to get angry with you. Because Endermen are very much something that we should associate with an AS, and we should also factor in, of course, slimes. So the two things you're most likely to encounter in this dungeon, Endermen and slimes, but zombies, skeletons, and creepers especially also turn up. Because why wouldn't they? If this was just like the natural world was causing these things to turn up, then creepers, skeletons, and zombies probably wouldn't be very much higher on the list. It would just be Endermen and slimes. But since we have an actual intelligence that's acting in behind the scenes here, we're going to assume that they can bring along all of these lists. And then we have our mini boss as our top tier. Blip. Of mischief. There we are. Blip, blip, blip. Okay. I know at least somebody pointed out all the strange noises I make when I'm doing stuff. I don't know why. It just sort of emphasizes the action, makes it slightly more comical. So, this will be... There is the question that I had to figure out. What exactly is the boss going to be? Because a blaze would make the most sense, but we've already done that sort of in terms of the Brimstone boss in Moriboka's dungeon. We could do a slime. We could actually have some kind of minion of Moses. A staff of Moses, if you will. Which would be a callback to Far Fallen Arena back in Undermine. I think we might use an Enderman. An Enderman might make the most sense, especially if we have them carrying a slime block. And we just call them the Harbour Master or some such. Endermen make the most sense to me. Obviously, this is all up to, like, a final say on this is up to Aeneas. We don't want to release a dungeon that they're not happy with, especially when it's got their name on it. But an Enderman boss for this dungeon makes the most sense to me, at least. So, let's say we have Enderman with slime block. And no loot, because it's the mini-boss, it's not an actual boss. No loot. I don't know if I can make them angry initially, but it's something we're going to try. If nothing else, we can summon them on top of somebody. There's no way that you'll be able to tell exactly what form of mischief it will take when you break these pots and whatnot, so consequently, it's highly likely that if an Enderman spawns, you're going to be staring right at them. Even if the Enderman is a popular one. So, no loot. High damage, and mid-range health. There we go. So, and then, once we actually hit the final level, we actually get the full boss. And that one actually drops loot, that one actually has special attacks and whatnot. So, let's... oh, I don't know. Region info. Oh, yeah. Dungeon. Aeneas. Enderman cannot spawn in here. Okay, let's hop out over to this neat little platform over here, where it's of course night. And we want to summon an Enderman, and then we want to use, there we go, a command block to check his entity data. Just so that I know what this is. So, let's see. / entity data at e type equals Enderman, r equals 3. So let's see, what values do we have to work with here? Standard attributes, invulnerable, whether they'll fall, which is something we do want to work into. I'm not seeing an angry here, but we would expect to find that. Health, left-handed. That's interesting. I don't know if we can make them left-handed or not. Hand drop chances. We're going to want to make that 0 so they don't actually drop their data. Can pick up loot, hurt time. No, is there seriously no kind of anger tag in here? If there is, I am not seeing one. Okay, let's try checking something. So, angry 1B. Nope. Apparently, that is just not a thing. Well, I'm gonna have a look through the Enderman tags and such. Oh, and lightning probably started here. The Enderman tags and such to get a better idea of just what details we can fine-tune there. But we absolutely can change some details that I know are going to be useful. So, look, and he's gone. He's off into there, apparently. Okay, there you are. Let me do the really quick thing here. No, AI, 1B. There. So now he has absolutely no interactions and he can't do a thing. But he's in the area, so we know what to do with him. Right. So, entity data at E type equals Enderman. R equals 3. Okay. Custom name. The Harbor. The Harbor Master. And custom name. Visibal. There. So there we go. There is our first detail of our mini-boss. And let's see, the data that we had here... I'm guessing it's hand items? Yeah, hand items. We have 2 values there. So, let's try altering that. Hand items. And let's see, we want ID, Minecraft. Let's start with magma. That's not what we're going for, but it's the first block that comes to mind. Apparently, that is not the value. Okay, well, that's fine. So, I will have a look through things and we'll detail that later, but for now... Persistence required 1B. You can be my test subject! Yay! Good thing. Right. So the hard thing is determining how we are going to set these off. How are we going to pick? We've got these 3 different categories, each of which has upwards of a half-dozen options here. How are we going to decide which category and then which thing? And the answer to that is an RNG. So if you haven't watched my Book of Lying video recently, then it might be worth you doing just so. Now the trouble here is that we need to select one, so we can't use our... we can't use our we can't use the structure blocks. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a bit late that sort of mumbling bit. We can't use the structure block, at least as I displayed it in that particular video. What we can do is just quickly put together. Yes, we are. Can't quite see it. And we want that to be RNG bit. So, flip. Save. Okay. And we also want to move that out a bit. Load it. There we go. So there's our 1 bit. Now the trouble with structures, in this case, is that we can set their probabilities to be whatever number we want, but if we're just looking for one of them, then having it be multiple blocks in size makes it actually bad for us. So we need to set up an RNG bit that actually only ever sets up one at a time. So let's grab this, let's load up RNG bit, let's put it 2 blocks away and on the same level. So load and load. There you are. Okay, that is the wrong direction. There. Okay, that I can work with. So, what we're going to do is push a repeater signal here, and then another one here. We're going to do something that I've got running actually over on this signal over here, which is that whenever this is resetting, it ignores any new input until it is done resetting. So currently it's got a lot of things in here, so let's just grab these out so we can demonstrate. Okay, so that has one poppy left. And we can wait until it does that, but you see it actually did wait a bit, which is good. And let's shove those in. And what we're going to do here is these are all going to have their own little structure integrity value, and that will determine whether or not an actual block appears here. So it'll be a 50-50 or something like that. And the next one will be an exact duplicate of this, except that we have that there. Okay, good. And in that way, we should be able to select the first one that actually succeeds, which means we can sort of have a priority here. If all of these fail, then we get the last one, which is good. So we can start off with the debuffs, we can go to the mid-ranges, and then we can go to the mini-boss. So we try and get this. Okay, now we actually don't need a third point here, because this is already a bit fixed up in that regard. So we want, let's just clone that. Bloop, bloop. Oop, that's not quite right. That will just be there. Okay. And then that, and that. This, and that. Okay, so because this is a shorter delay than this, then when the signal comes through, it pauses faster than everything else. And that's what we're looking for. So this becomes our outputs, our points where we decide, do we actually send this signal? Now the first thing we are going to need is a signal here, which is going in the negative X. So fill blub 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 to -5. Let's make that 7 actually. Blub blub, and we want it to be air 0. Replace redstone block. So that empties out whatever signal came before the last time. And we want to get redstone there so we get this through. Okay. So we have ourselves a button or something, or a lever, or whatever you like, and that just resets it whenever we're trying to send a pulse through. Okay, so in this case we have selected mid-range, so a boss, a mob of some kind. And in this case we've selected another mini-boss. And, oh, actually we want to have a slight delay, that's why. That's why we're only seeing the second one. Okay, and we'll only see the first one here because that's the first one. But if we set this to be a point, say 1.25 kind of thing, 0.25, we can actually make this last one a 100% chance, but for now it's okay. Okay. So yeah, no chance appealed there. Oh, mid-range there. Nothing there. So, yeah, what we can do is we can have that be really high chance, we can have that be moderate chance, and then we can have that be basically 100, in which case we don't even need that at all. So let us just short this out entirely. There. So let's say that is a 50-50 chance, and then that is a 75, a 1 in 4 chance. There we go. So that time we went with the mini-boss. This time we went with a debuff. Debuff again. Yeah, okay, so this is where things start to get a bit more complicated, because we're now manufacturing our random number generator bit by bit, and that gives us quite a bit of options. So with that, we can then expand into smaller debuffs, smaller RNGs that we're more familiar with, that you might see in the Book of Lying video, and from there, we can select from our lists of things in these cases, which might be 3 options here, and then maybe 3 options there, but will certainly be only the 1 option for this point, because that's the one that we should see the least. Ooh, more lightning. Eeh. But anyways, that has been this for the time being. Hope you enjoyed me messing about a little bit. I don't know when this dungeon is coming out. I know that's a popular question, but people still need to rebuild from the last dungeon, and evidently people are trying to go through the Dungeon of Avernus a fair bit as well, and people still need to fight the boss in the last one to get the special item from it. But hopefully we'll have this out in the near future, maybe ideally before like a series like Mating Do ends, but hopefully it will only be at most 1 more month. I'm hoping we can get it in early next month, but we shall see what happens. This is all on Aeneas, who is not paid for what they do. I keep having to remind people that Aeneas is completely voluntary here. In fact, Aeneas pays to be on this server. There's very precious few people who get a free ride in that regard. I'm very, very hard on that. But, anyways, hope you've all enjoyed, and I shall catch you all next time.